Hello and welcome to the Trusted Professional Podcast, provided by NYCPA, the New York State Society of Certified Public Accountants. I'm Calvin Harris Jr., a CPA and Chief Executive Officer of the Society, and I'm your host. This is a podcast provided by NYCPA, where I interview leaders in the accounting profession in New York and beyond, as well as those who influence this space. We help you connect, learn, and lead within the accounting profession. In this episode, we present an interview with Marc Mallare, a New York CPA who's in charge of our Next Gen initiative. But before we get to Marc, let's discuss the news of the day. First, I want to highlight the amazing work of our 14 chapters around the state, as well as our 60 communities of practice and committees, all of which are doing amazing things throughout the state. As of the time of our recording, we have on the 14th a Staten Island wine tasting, which will benefit the Moynihan Scholarship Fund. The Rochester chapter on Friday the 15th has a World of Accounting sponsorship event focused on students. And next week, we have an event where NYCPA will have a grand opening and a celebration of new beginnings at our new headquarters on 200 Madison Avenue. These and all our activities you can see on the events calendar at nysscpa.org. Also, we have our very first student chapter at Marist College, which was just launched. It's our first, but definitely not our last. But it ends up being yet another way that we will connect with students that are entering the accounting profession. Now on to news outside of New York. As of the time of our recording, we've had the completion of the presidential election, where former President Trump will soon become President Trump entering his second term. Of course, within the accounting profession, we will wait and see what the impacts will be on business and finance and the accounting profession, including and especially its effect on IRS regulation and support. And of course, you can look to NYCPA to keep providing you that news. Additionally, within the accounting profession, we have an article from Accounting Today where the taxpayer advocate is criticizing the IRS move to shorten notice requirements. Taxpayer advocate Aaron Collins is objecting to proposed regs that would enable the IRS to shorten its third-party notice period from its current 45-day period to as short as 10. You can find that on the Accounting Today website at accountingtoday.com. With that said, we now go to our interview with Marc Mallare.
I'm very excited for this conversation. Marc is an audit manager with 7 years of experience across many industries. He is a licensed CPA, graduated from Canisius College, now New University, in Buffalo, along with his MBA. He is born and raised in Buffalo, never left, and it's a beautiful place, so I certainly understand why. He started at a local firm in Buffalo before leaving just a few years ago, 2021, for Frazier Deeter, which is a top 50 accounting firm headquartered in Atlanta with offices across the U.S., the U.K., and in India. When he was hired, he was the department's second fully remote senior. Now, that kind of thing, I'm sure is pretty typical. He's specialized in SaaS companies along with emerging companies at various lifecycles. Certainly within the state society, he holds really important roles. He's a board member of the Buffalo chapter, where he's also held roles as membership chair, Next Gen chair, and he's most recently the president-elect. And he was nominated and elected chair, Next Gen chair, for the Next Gen committee just last year. So he is our current Next Gen chair. Again, Next Gen are our valued members 40 years and under. And his focus is on re-energizing the emerging CPA profession and bringing back a sense of community. Well, things I completely agree with. Now, when he's not working, and clearly with his background, he clearly works hard, but he trains and also competes in powerlifting. He's an avid golfer and he enjoys trying new restaurants and breweries while planning his wedding with his fiancée. Congratulations and good luck on the planning. So he's from Buffalo, so he'd be publicly shamed if we didn't also note that he's a diehard Sabres and Buffalo Bills fan. So go Bills. And Marc, so glad to have you on the podcast today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me today. Really excited for this.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to have you on because one of the things, and you and I have talked about it a bit offline, is just how important and vital it is to make sure that our next gen or our younger CPAs are engaged and involved. It's very cliche, but still true to say that you are the future of the profession, but the reality is you're also the current profession. So we need to make sure that we're engaging everyone wherever they are in their life cycle. So you're anything like me, and I suspect you are, it was probably a little cringeworthy hearing your bio read back to you. But, I wanted to make sure everybody knows just how important you are to the society and the amazing work that you continue to do. But that said, I always like to start with the origin story. I would love to hear your journey into the field of accounting. How did you get here?
Like most accountants, the cliche is that we said that we were good in math, and naturally we're like, you know what? Accountants do number stuff. Like, let's be an accountant. So when I was in high school, I really enjoyed math. My dad's an engineer. My sister was at the time in college with focus in mathematics at, ironically enough, Canisius College at the time. And I was very fortunate where I went to high school here in Buffalo, New York, St. Joseph's Collegiate Institute. They did a really good job within the guidance department of advising us of different majors. And one project I had to do was research a bunch of different careers in which things that I focused on. I think you can tell at an early age, I was meant to be an accountant because I was looking at job security and median income, like real nerdy stuff there for my assignment for me.
I did the same in high school. It resonates.
Yeah, but I came across accounting and started to gravitate to it. I was fortunate enough that we had a family friend that she does taxes and welcomed me in for a month during the summertime. And I'll never forget day one. She was like, so why do you want to be an accountant? What makes you want to go to college for this? And I was like, well, I'm really good at math. And she laughed at me right in my face. This is 17-year-old Mark, just first day there getting laughed at. And she was like, listen, accounting is a jigsaw puzzle. It has nothing to do with math. I don't do math myself. I don't use a calculator. And to this day, like that comment just holds so much truth.
It does, yeah.
I mean, in college, it was definitely tough. Accounting is not the easiest major. And some of that, sometimes we can be our own worst enemies with that because it's almost like a rite of passage to get into it. And I mean, we can talk about it. Maybe it shouldn't be that way because accounting really should be for everyone. But yeah, just stuck it out, grinding my teeth in college. Passed the 4 parts of arguably the hardest exam that there is, the CPA exam.
Here. Yeah.
And I mean, but again, it's just so worth it. And, that's something that I always tell, the college students that I go and talk to, and even younger professionals is it going to be painful for a little bit? Yeah, but anything that is worthwhile requires effort in life. And it holds so true to the CPA exam that it just opens up so many doors for you. And just that sacrifice that you have to make for X amount of months or a year or maybe years, it just pays dividends along the road.
Yeah, no, that is also true. And I appreciate you telling your story there. I noticed you talk about the guidance counselor, and it's so interesting because it's anecdotal, of course, but we certainly do hear that on occasions, guidance counselors, who of course, it's no doubt a challenging job, we keep hearing that there's resistance in some cases to even recommend accounting to high school students, whether it's, not really understanding how technology will enhance, to be sure, but not eliminate the profession, or, just how difficult this is, or the hours, the supposed hours that we have to work. And sometimes we work more than we should, and we talk about it more than we should. But it also sounds like you pretty much were self-motivated and kind of, leaned into accounting. Those so-called nerdy, I'll say so-called because I did the very same thing when I thought about accounting, is that I think I'd say, I don't even know if this is true, but I gleaned in my head that there were more CEOs with an accounting major than any other business major. I was like, okay, this is all coming together. I probably misread it at 15, but it's important. Those early voices make a big difference. So you talked about how you got there, and you touched on a few things that I want to really dig into a little bit, particularly get your thoughts. What do you see as our biggest challenge as a profession? Or it could be multiple items of the things you think we should work on. What do you see as the things that, to use a phrase, we're probably our own worst enemies in accounting?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of twofold, right? So I could be a broken record here and say pipeline's our biggest challenge. But
it comes up every episode, so no worries.
You bring in any accountant here, they're going to tell you pipeline, especially for those of us who are still in public accounting. I mean, it's an issue that's not going away. But I think to give a different answer there, it's kind of on us, right? So we're our own worst enemy. I know, like, you kind of echoed that comment there, but we truly are. So as accountants, I don't know what it is about us, but we are natural complainers. It doesn't matter. We really are, though. Like, we work the long hours. Sometimes we do so like when we don't even have to. And instead of, shaking it off and moving on to the next week, we just harp on it. And we like to, it's like a badge of honor for us being like, oh, I worked 70 hours in busy season. And okay, cool. Yeah, sometimes we do have to do that, right? Like, we make the sacrifices still today. I mean, this profession in busy season, we do have to make the sacrifices, but then we just completely ignore all the other benefits that do come with being an accountant full time. So really a lot, again, circling back, we're our own worst enemy, because instead of focusing on the positives, we just continue to harp on the negatives. And yeah, is it fun to vent and like make us feel better? Of course it does. But, over time, we've gained that bad reputation of, oh, we just crunch numbers, whatever the heck that means. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out what exactly crunch numbers means.
Right. Or counting beans. Right.
Yeah. Like, what do? You just click enter in Excel a few times and that's crunching the numbers. But again, like, we're not the sexiest field. I mean, today, if you look at graduation rates, you'll see a lot of students going into computer sciences. They want to be techies. I mean, my sister and brother-in-law, they're both techies all the way across the country.
Yeah.
So no disrespect to them, but there's no movies, being made about accountants. There's no shows being made about accountants. And yeah, it's not the most exciting field, but it opens you up to so many different experiences. And really, that's not what's being talked about, because we just continue to, harp on this negative narrative about our profession instead of, helping ourselves. It goes back to the pipeline, right? Like, if we're just constantly spewing the narrative that, oh, this field is so tough, we work so much, who's going to want to go into it? If I'm a high school student, I'm sure as heck not going to go into accounting if all I'm hearing is, oh my God, all they do is work nonstop. They don't ever have fun.
You've touched on a loaded subject. I could not agree more on. Now, I will say, anybody that's heard the podcast before knows that I'm absolutely going to circle back to Mark's comment on accounting and movies. So we'll put a pin on that and we'll come back to it later. But I think you're so true, so correct in talking about how we can be our own worst enemies. Whether you think about it, telling good stories. Admittedly, that's why I enjoy doing the podcast. I get to, hear our members, hear other CPAs talk about their stories, and we get to, humanize it. Interestingly enough, if you ask the average child what they want to be when they grow up, I figure one of four things will come out. Doctor, lawyer, and let's just say entertainer, real big, broad thing, whether it's an actor, singer, what have you, or athlete, again, broad. So you figure one of those four are going to pretty consistently come out. Now, if a loved one or parent or sibling, someone they know is doing something really different than one of those four, then they might see that. Although, my niece and nephew have seen me as a CPA all their lives, and it had no impact. But that said, those are the four things. And, to your point, doctors and lawyers work just as many hours as we do, in many cases harder, longer.
I'd argue that they just work more, honestly. I mean, if you think about what we do, I've been in public accounting my whole career, right? So I can only use this as my best example, though I can touch on private, just obviously working with different clients. But really, for us, we know when we're going to be busy. So, as a person in audit, I know tax gets busy kind of different times during the year. But for those of us in audit, we're really busy, maybe late January through late April. And that's our busiest times. And I mean, as a person from Buffalo, that's perfect for me because
Right.
I mean, I'm at my most busy while it's terrible outside, like it's cold. I don't want to go outside anyways. And then once I start to free up, the sun's out shining, I can go golfing when I want and everything's great. But we at least do have that like set schedule of knowing when we're going to be busy. I mean, doctors, lawyers, it's pretty much year round for them. Whereas for us, we do have that break of, hey, we have summer and the fall, arguably the two best seasons that there are, that we can go out and enjoy. Most firms have like either unlimited PTO or they have a large amount of PTO. And I know at a firm like mine, like we really encourage all of our employees to take that PTO because you work hard, you should be rewarded for it and have that ability, to mentally recharge.
Yeah, very important. Yeah.
And especially in the summertime, like go out and enjoy it. Like there's more to life than this computer right here. Like we're not actually saving lives. Although maybe we are. Maybe we're the true superheroes because without us, I mean, markets would crash.
There we go. The good news is we recorded that line. With that one may show up again. So yeah, and obviously, not knocking doctors or lawyers. I mean, heck, my fiance is a lawyer, but she's not within earshot, so I could still say this. But they clearly have better storytellers than we do. And kudos to them, but we certainly have an opportunity to do better. And I got to admit, I never thought that rough weather could be something to mention in busy season, and depending on your year, and of course, but busy season, that's actually a pretty good one. That's not bad at all.
I mean, it catches for us here in New York. I can say that in other parts. I was talking to one of my teams here at the firm, and there's one individual from Tampa, and we were kind of talking about weather. They were rubbing into my face that it's starting to cool down here up north. Unfortunately, it's very, very, very sad time for me as a golfer to realize I'm out of 80-degree days. But they were talking about how really the winter months is perfect for Florida because it's not just overly hot. You don't go outside and melt like a snowman, but it's comfortable. And I was like, geez, I don't know if I could, do busy season then if I was in Florida, because I would want to go outside and like enjoy life during that time. But
I get that point.
Definitely up north, it's great.
Yeah, it fits right in. That's true. And side note, the NYCPA has a huge number of members actually based in Florida, for that reason. I suspect amongst others, it's one of our states where we partner a lot because we have so many members down there as well. At least at the time of us recording, where you still have a golfing window, right? You've got what, maybe 2 more months, or is that
it may be aggressive, but I mean, it's really until like snow starts to fall. Once it starts to get cool,
it's over.
It's really not. Yeah, it's not enjoyable being outside in like 30-degree weather. Once you run out of hot coffee, it's not fun anymore.
Well, fair enough. So a little bit of adjustment, but at least it's during busy season. So Now we talked a bit about the challenge, and I could not agree more with your points on particularly telling better stories and looking for our own accounting superheroes. But that said, a lot of that comes down to the public consciousness. So I'm curious from your perspective, what do you think is an idea or concept or just some opinion that you think the majority of people get wrong? It could be about accounting or it could be in general. What's something that you see, oh gosh, that you just don't understand? What comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I think it's really that, we have the perception of being the workaholics. It goes back to us having that badge of honor about how much we work. And, for some of us, that can be the case. I mean, I've come across plenty of workaholics, in my life. But I think kind of with that, it's like that, one, workaholics, and two, like only caring about the job. And I think along the way, and I mean, it didn't really help. We had COVID, a couple of years back now, but we've kind of lost ourselves in a way, even as a professional. Like I've seen it myself, where we've lost that people aspect, where we get that reputation of being these robots that just crunch the numbers. And some of us truly are, though, which is kind of sad. Like some have lost like that personal ability of truly connecting on a one-to-one level, which is like a foundation of my beliefs. Like until I can connect someone like on that personal level, I mean, there's no way that I can, do my job as an accounting manager or to develop, my seniors and associates under me. But that's definitely where right now we have that bad perception of is we're workaholics. We're these robots that all we do is churn out reports or tax returns. I mean, who's going to want to go work for that?
Right. That's such a good point. And it's funny you say that because I keep thinking about how things have had to adjust with, since COVID. You were hired a few years ago as a second remote employee at that level, but then now it's commonplace if you're hiring that you have that discussion whether it'll be remote or not. I tend to believe that the right person can work just as well remotely as in person, but it really depends on the person. I tend to believe as much as it's easier as a manager and a leader to say one size fits all, that's usually not the way these things tend to work. But then you also have to know yourself. And I think for me, I think one of the most important things I found, and it sounds like you've already found it much earlier than I did in my career, was not realizing that the numbers are important in accounting. Obviously, whether we crunch them or just report them, but the real power of accounting, not to sound so cliche about it, I think it really comes in the ability to present, the ability to connect with people, and certainly if you're going to be managing or leading people, it's important to be able to connect. And sometimes, technology allows us in some ways to be more connected than ever. And in some cases, depending on the person, it also allows us to be as distant as ever. Just because I see you on the screen all the time doesn't mean we're necessarily connecting as individuals. And then if you've got people that you need to lead and manage and train up, if you're not connecting with them in some sort of way, it's going to be hard for it to all work out. But to your first point, though, the best accountants, CPAs I've known over the years, I would never think of them as workaholics. Even though, to your point, I hear people talk, this time of year you're done. You don't want to even talk to them. You don't even want to deal with them. I mean, certainly there are people who work long hours and they plan for them typically. But then there are some people who work just hard and they just love it so much that they don't even think of it as being workaholic. And I would say, well, yeah, you're a workaholic. You just love what you do. But I do think people get that wrong a lot. That's all we do, and that's all we are. There are some really great stereotypical accountants of media that have continued that thought, but yeah, I do think people get that wrong. So with that said, we're going to shift into one of my favorite questions. So I'm going to make you, King Marc, king of the accounting profession. You can, your kingdom can go beyond accounting if you wish. But if you had unlimited resources and no constraints, what innovative project or initiative would you take on? Resources, be darned, doesn't matter. What do you think? What might you do?
Oh, I mean, if we're talking about a research study, figuring out how the heck I can't get a Buffalo sports team to win a championship.
This might be the.
But that has nothing to do with accounting.
I got faith in Josh Allen. I think this might be it.
I do too, but I'm also scared at the same time. I've been hurt way too many times in my life. No, but sorry, to get back to, really the actual question there, I think it's really educating the younger population. So the high school and college students. I always tell the story myself, especially when I go in and talk to college students. And I always tell them, hey, when I was in your shoes, I had no idea about the state society of CPAs. Like, I literally had no idea. It wasn't until I joined my old firm and, Lisa Merkel, she was at my old firm, very active within the state, and she introduced me to the state society of CPAs and ended up joining the board, and the rest is history. But getting the students to learn about the state society and trying to find a way, and I mean, this is something you were on our last meeting, trying to find ways to better connect with college and high school students. It's definitely tough sledding right now. Obviously, let's be honest, especially at the high school level, really any type of teacher, they're overwhelmed. I mean, we have a tough job. I can't even imagine being a teacher. Like, it is such a difficult task to come in each and every day, present something new, and also you're in charge of these individuals. Like, good luck. If I had the resources, right, is finding that right program, both at the high school and college level, to find a way to develop these high school and college students and educate them about the profession, educate them about the different issues that you'll encounter during the profession, and more so providing assistance to these different schools. I think about the Next Gen Committee here in these next couple of years, really like a 5-year goal, is trying to be more of an ally to our universities and high schools in providing education, but also mentoring to these students to help them. And hey, accounting is not for everyone. So if a student wants to opt out, by all means.
No career is. Sure.
Exactly. And same thing, even within accounting, is then further educating them, especially in college, about the different paths that you can take with the major. I remember sitting in an accounting class in college, and each and every Wednesday we would hear from different professionals. They'd come in and talk to us, majority from the Big Four. And I felt as though a lot of us, within that classroom just thought, oh, like, if I don't go Big Four, then I'm going to be I'm not going to have a future. Like, this is the only, route. But we just weren't exposed to all these different firms and all these different career paths. And now looking back at it here, like 7 years into my career, I see, yeah, there is no set path to success for the accounting major. You can go any different route. And as long as you have that internal motivation and have the willingness to want to get better each and every day, you're going to find success along the way, or success is just going to find you, because when you're putting in the effort, you're going to get the breaks in due time. So finding ways to continue to educate our students of the different pathways, especially at the college level, I think would be so beneficial. And especially going back to the source of our problem, our pipeline, you can tell I've thought about this a good amount, is that would help to solve the pipeline, right? Of showing these students, hey, like, here's the carrot at the end of the stick. You know, if you really don't want to do busy season, I mean, public accounting isn't for everyone. You don't have to do it. But there are different paths that you can take then to be successful, whether it's internal audit, whether it's, you know, going into a different field like consulting, advisory. You know, it's really endless, the different opportunities that come with the accounting major.
You dropped a bunch of nuggets in there that was fantastic. I can tell you that there are so many groups and organizations, NYCPA absolutely included, looking to enhance our communication at the college and high school level. And certainly shout out to our high school teachers of accounting. I wish I could remember his name. I'd give him the shout, well-deserved recognition. But my high school bookkeeping teacher was absolutely one of the more important people to get me on this path. And a very good friend of mine who, side note, is one of my only coach for my marathon training. He's a high school accounting teacher. And we've talked about the challenges he's had as a high school teacher in terms of the resources and whatnot. So absolutely, our high school teachers, much like all teachers, you know, have really challenging jobs. You know, full disclosure, I've said it many times, my late mother was a high school bookkeeping teacher. So I won't pretend that I'm not biased in this regard, but it's a really important thing. And I think, to your point, Mark, our ability to connect with those teachers and professors makes such a huge difference, because they're the ones that both educate our students, our future leaders, our future accountants, but also position them for success. I chuckled to myself when you talked about the big four. At the time it was 6. By the time I graduated, it was 5. But I absolutely fell into that whole discussion on my professors pushing big 5. Now, truth be told, I very much enjoyed my experience at Arthur Andersen. Even though public accounting wasn't for me, I loved the start. But there are multiple paths to success, and I think your idea is one that the resource is already being developed towards that. I'm happy to say, but it certainly is one of the things we could do better. Now, I do want to come back real quick to something you have mentioned in passing, and I got to admit, for listeners, I give the guests, our members, the 5 questions I'm going to ask. And the 5 questions are always standard, but there often will be, in a good conversation like this one, will be a follow-up. So my follow-up is, and a few other people have answered, so can even give you a few of the prior answers. Who would be your favorite accountant in media? Your favorite fictional accountant?
Oh, geez, this might be the hardest question I've been asked today.
Yeah. Side note, I did not tell. I wasn't trying to blindside you, Mark, but I forgot. I forgot to mention that I might ask this question. So I can tell you what some other people said if it helps.
I think I have a good answer to this, actually, and shoot. I'm not going to go with. I know there's a movie called The Accountant. That's probably the stereotypical answer, because
it's an easy one.
Yeah, it's a lazy answer.
Yeah. Well, I'll say the COO, our COO has told me that I cannot invoke the name of the actor who played in The Accountant out of fear of shaming. Side note, The Accountant 2 is coming out, and there's going to be a premiere in New York. So, stay tuned on that. So who beyond that, The Accountant, who's your person?
I'm going to go with Andy Dufresne from Shawshank.
Oh, see, there you go. Yeah. One of my favorite movies. Yeah.
Great movie.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, Andy was an exceptional money launderer, and
not great at ethics, but
well, he adjusted to his circumstances. So, yeah, I will say, that is absolutely one of my favorite movies. So you got a good one. And on a dare and a half joke, I posted the fictional accountant of the week on Wednesday. I already posted one, and I got to say, Andy Dufresne will probably make an appearance on there. So that was a good one. That was a good one, as he should. All right, so Mark, I've really enjoyed the conversation. I'm tempted to go a little bit further in terms of trying to affirm to you, although maybe it should go the other way, on how this could very well be the year for the Bills, whether we talk about Mahomes can't just keep winning, to Lamar, a lot of folks know where I'm from, so I admittedly do like Lamar, But I think there are questions on the defense, even with the skill of adding Derrick Henry. And then, as the time of us recording, the Bengals lost to my hometown team, which no one's to lose to. I mean, I'm aware of that. So I think things are shaping up good for the Bills. I think this is it.
If there's anything I've learned in my 30 years of life so far is I'll always get my hopes up only to get them crushed. So this year I've gone at it with like probably a much different mentality and I mean, this is kind of like a good mentality to have for, just everyday life, just being open. Whatever happens is going to happen. It's not going to be the end of the world regardless. It's really just enjoying these weeks. And I watch every single football game with my dad, and I'm very fortunate to, be able to watch the games with him. So just having fun watching these games. I mean, win or lose. I mean, hopefully, I keep saying, I just want to experience one championship, while I'm here. So hopefully this is the year, but I mean, you can only have hope at the end of the day. And
there you go.
If it's the hope that kills, so be it.
Yep, there you go. So be it. And side note, hope was the last word used in the Shawshank Redemption. Now, if you want to talk about a nerdy factoid that probably only interests me, is that the last word that Morgan Freeman said was hope. So there you go. We will cut it off there. But one last thing. We had this great conversation, but what thing did I forget to ask or did I bring up? What do you did we miss anything in our conversation?
I think maybe just, the one thing, with our profession, even like talking, we can go back to the remote discussion if you'd like.
Sure.
Is like just, again, with people coming out of college, good advice is being open. I know some firms are starting to bring back being in-person requirements, and that's obviously not favorable, right? Because everyone just wants to have that flexibility. I mean, who wants to be told what to do at the end of the day? With that, the way in which I see it is, everyone, I think probably starting out should at least venture into the office if they have an office close to them, right? Like if you're working for a firm that's not even based in your area, I'm not telling you to hop on a flight, but going in, developing those relationships, because I know like for myself, as I reflect here in my 7 years in public, if I were to have started with a remote job out of college, there is no way I would have had any type of success just because I didn't have that emotional or mental maturity until a few years into my career. Whereas now I'm upstairs in one of my extra bedrooms. This is my office. And I know when I come up here, like, I'm here to work. I'm not sitting around playing on my computer. I know like I have to put forth honest effort. So just be open with it and just try to be a sponge when you're around people, especially in those offices. And when you can have the opportunity to have some type of hybrid schedule, or who knows, like, I mean, I still find it crazy that I work fully remote with the closest employee for me being 900 miles away.
Right.
But you never know what opportunities are going to come across you in this field, truly.
So true. Very well said, especially as our next gen chair. I feel like you just said a mouthful, especially that our younger or newer CPAs should heed. But that advice goes to our more seasoned folks as well. So that was fantastic. Mark, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure having you today on the podcast.
No, thank you so much, Calvin. Appreciate it.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed our interview with Marc Mallare as much as I did. He is absolute proof that even relatively early in your career, you can have great impact and a huge effect. I am so much looking forward to the work he continues to do with our younger CPAs, and I invite you to join him as part of the Next Gen Committee with NYCPA. Thank you again for joining us on the Trusted Professional Podcast. If you like what you heard, please subscribe now to get this podcast delivered to you when it's released. And of course, please do review and rate our podcast as it helps us continue bringing episodes to you. And if you aren't a current member of NYCPA, I ask you to join us and learn more about our events and activities at nysscpa.org and follow us on social media. If you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, especially possible interviewees, please email us at podcast@nysscpa.org. Thanks for listening.